I was in an upper level office. I heard the sound of an approaching aircraft, but that's not unusual. We're a naval air station. Airplanes come and go, but not usually on a Sunday, not that early in the morning. But the sound grew louder and louder, and I thought, oh, well, a couple of the aircraft carriers, the Lexington and the Enterprise, had left the harbor the previous week to deliver short-range aircraft to our military forces on Midway and Wake Island, and I figure they must be returning, and they will, as usual, they'll launch their aircraft while they're still out at sea. Those airplanes come in, operate off the land base while the carrier's in the harbor. Suddenly the sound of that airplane changed, and I knew immediately that it was in a power dive. And I'm thinking, oh, that's one of those carrier air group pilots. You know, he's got a little bit bored with that regulation formation flying. He's wanting to do a little hot dogging and have a little fun. And I'm thinking, boy, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes when the commanding officer gets a hold of him. He is really going to be in trouble. Little did I realize that it was those of us there on the ground and on the ships like Mickey was who were going to be in some serious trouble very, very shortly. Suddenly and almost simultaneously there was a tremendous roar, and bomb fragments, explosion debris, and window glass came crashing into the back of my head, ears, and onto my shoulders. You know, those of you who have been maybe involved in similar events will remember that that can kind of derail your train of thoughts. It did mine anyway. It took me a few moments to get my train of thoughts back together, but when I did, I'm still thinking it's one of our air group pilots hot dogging, crashed. I'm going to go down and see if I can be of some help. I pushed myself back from that debris-covered desk typewriter. I got started for the door. I thought, oh, hell, I could be in trouble up here using this typewriter. You know, I'm on watch. I maybe shouldn't be here trying to write this letter. So I reached back, grabbed that unfinished letter, ripped it out of the cage of the typewriter, crumbled my hands, threw it in the wastebasket as I went out the door. Oh, how many times I have wished I would have kept that letter. When I got on the lower level, went out through the narrow opening, left the room, closed the end of the rolling hangar door, the sound of another aircraft. I looked up, and here comes this airplane, a steep power dive. I'm seeing what's looking like blinking or flashing lights on the front, and I'm hearing strange popping and buzzing sounds all around me, but I don't recognize them for what they are. I'm only 17 years old, never been to a war before. I didn't recognize them. Later I was told that what I thought was blinking or flashing lights was actually machine gun muzzle flashes, and those popping and buzzing and whizzing sounds that I was hearing all about me were those machine gun bullets striking and ricocheting off that steel hangar door right behind me and off the concrete apron on which I was standing. But since I didn't recognize them for what they were, I didn't think there was any danger to me, you know. My interest was gone to a big old bomb hanging there on the bottom of the fuselage between the fixed landing gear on that radial engine Val dive bomber. Suddenly that bomb released, it wobbled as it began to fall. That airplane began to pull out of his dive. By the time it had got out of its dive and was in level flight, I don't think it was more than 100, 150 feet over my head. It's then that I first saw and recognized that big round red insignia there on the bottom of the wing. That, and the fact that they have just dropped a bomb, has convinced me that, oh, these are not the friendly fellows I thought they might be, you know. I turned around, hurried back inside the hangar, hoping I could find someone with a key to the ammo shack. All of our guns and ammunition was locked up, and I wanted to get a gun and get at these guys, you know. But as I come in the front door of the hangar that morning, the other few that I went on duty with were heading out the back door. Somebody, I suppose a duty officer, spots me and says, "Hey, you, follow me." I went after him. I thought, oh boy, we're going to get some guns and ammo. We're going to do something about this, you know. But when they went out the back door of Building 54, instead of turning to a right and going down across the narrow roadway to the end of the A&R hangar, Building 38, if I remember right, they turned to the left, went out there somewhere on the other end of the hangar, jumped into an unfilled construction ditch. I followed, jumped in after them. I hit the bottom of that ditch, got myself stabilized, looked up. I'm looking right at a guy there in his white uniform. The work uniform was blue bell-bottom dungaree trousers and a chambray work shirt, but he was in his dress white uniform, like he was going into Honolulu, going to church or something. Never did find out why he was in his dress uniform, but I'm so thankful that he was, because there on the left sleeve of that uniform was a petty officer's rating badge, and I recognized that wing round cannonball, the insignia of an aviation ordnanceman. You're the duty ordnanceman. Yeah, you got a key for the ammo shack. Yeah, well, let's go get some guns and ammo and shoot these blankety blanks, you know. So I hadn't much more than hit the bottom of that ditch, and I and that ordnanceman were on our way up out of the ditch. Somebody, again I suppose the duty officer, calls out, "Get back in the ditch! Get back in the ditch!" Hell, I don't want to be in that ditch. We're military men. We should be putting up a defense. We shouldn't be here in this ditch. Besides, I know this is the beginning of that war that they've been talking about and we've been preparing for. And I'm from a proud family. And I damn well know that if I'm going to lose my life in this or any other battle of this war, I would want my family and my country to know that I died fighting, not hiding. We continue to fight. We continued to fire that ditch, started to run for the ammo shack. Then I heard the most unexpected military command directed at myself, and that orders I thought I would ever hear in the military, especially under those conditions. We weren't running from the action, we were running to it. Anyway, somebody, again I suppose the duty officer, shouts, "Get back in the ditch or I'll put you on report for disobeying a direct order." I'm only 17 years old. That scared the hell out of me, man. Talk about being between a rock and a hard spot. These guys in these airplanes are machine gunning and dropping bombs, trying to kill as many of us as they could, and our own duty officer sheltering here in the ditch is threatening us with military discipline for one to defend ourselves. I couldn't believe it. With total and complete disregard for the threat of military discipline, with total and complete disregard for the fact that machine gun bullets and bombs were falling in the air to where we were running, we continued to run. We made it to the ammo shack door, and when I locked the door, let himself in, I'm right behind him. What do you want? Give me a 50 caliber machine gun. I'm a recent farm boy. The biggest gun I'm used to firing on a regular basis is a shoulder-fired 22 caliber rifle. This is not a shoulder-fired gun. This is a fixed-mount machine gun. Hell, it looked to me like a cannon without wheels, I took it as best I could. Most likely cradled it in my arms. I wasn't very big at the time. Turned, started for the door. By now, I guess a few other brave souls figured they ought to be in that ditch either, and they'd followed us to the ammo shack. The guy coming in the door was somewhat taller than I, huskier build. I just offloaded that machine gun to him. I said, "Here, take it to the PBY parking 123. I'll get the ammo." He looked a bit surprised, but he took it, turned out the door he went. I turned around, and there again I am so thankful and grateful to that aviation ordnanceman, because without his cooperation, none of this defense that we were able to get going there on that end of Ford Island would have came about. There would have been no defense there whatsoever. Anyway, when I turned around, he was just setting 2 canisters of 50 caliber ammo up on the counter. I grabbed those 2 canisters of ammunition, turned out the door I went. Now, I'm not a runner or a sprinter, but I guarantee you, I beat the guy with a gun to the airplane. He had a heavier load than I did. We were approaching that airplane from the port side, but the ladder to get into that airplane was hanging from the starboard gun blister. I ran around the backside, set those canisters down, started up the ladder. I don't think I got more than about a couple of rungs when it dawned on me, hey, if I get inside this airplane, am I going to be strong enough to reach down, pull that big old gun up inside? I don't think so. So I jumped down off the ladder just as the guy with the gun got there. "Give it to me, you get up inside, I'll hand it to you." Boy, he chopped up that ladder, jumped inside, turned around, reached down. I got the gun to him somehow, most likely muzzle first, which is the lightest end, but which is also a safety no-no, but I don't think either one of us was thinking about safety right at that time. I shouted, "Put it in the port blister, that's the side they're coming from." He turned and disappeared into the fuselage of that airplane. I grabbed the canister of that ammo in my right hand, guided myself with the lever with the left hand, set it inside, back down, got the second one, back up, set it inside, jumped inside, picked those 2 canisters up, stepped across to the port gun blister just as he was swinging that mounted gun out and locking it in firing position. I set the canisters down under the gun, flipped the lid open, come up to the end of the belt, ready to load, thinking he'd have the breech open. But he was just standing there staring skyward. I looked up, and here comes another one of those guys in a powered eye. Same old blinking, flashing lights. Now I'm only hearing popping sounds, which I was later told were some of those machine gun bullets passing through the fuselage of that airplane we're in. Big old bomb hanging there in the bottom. Man, I couldn't wait on this other guy to get his train of thoughts back together. I just reached over, slid the lock forward, threw the breech open, fed the end of the belt into the loading mechanism, slammed the breech shut, grabbed the charging pin, pulled it back, let it go. Bam! We get around the chamber. "Shoot!" I shouted, and he pulled the trigger. Now, I guess he was one of those guys that thought with a machine gun, you don't have to aim. You just point in the general direction of the target and fire away. Because I stood there and watched those tracer bullets fly off harmlessly through empty space where that airplane had once been. Back on the farm in the countryside where I was born and raised, you became a hunter and a gatherer real early in life. And you also ought to become a good shot. Because being a good shot would oftentimes mean the difference of whether you would or would not have food on the table. I shouted, "Let me get the next one." He let that gun down, stepped aside. I brought it back, grabbed it, brought it back up. Just as I did, here comes another one of those guys, you know. Same old blinking, flashing light, big old bomb hanging there, man, on the bottom. Man, I got a bead and a lead. A bead and a lead. I continued to lead and I squeezed that trigger. I continued leading and firing all the while that airplane came down, complete its power dive, pulled out into level flight, passed just overhead. I watched those tracer bullets go through the air, and it looked like every one of them went right into that big old round opening on the front of that air-cooled radial engine Dell bomber, then stitch to stitch right down the bottom of the fuselage. You know, no more aircraft came back to bomb or strafe our end of the island that morning. Well, no, wait a minute. Yes, there did. I stayed on that gun, and you know, I bent it back down after that guy went over. I didn't watch to see what happened to him because he's going away. He's no longer a threat. You better be looking for the next one that's coming at you. So I bring that gun back down. I'm looking for another one in the power dive, but I don't see any power dive. But there's one out over the channel, maybe 2 city blocks away, well within the range of a 50 caliber machine gun. He's not in a power dive, but a steep banking and descending left turn as though he's lining up to make another machine gun run on it. Because he's in that banking turn, I can see the cockpit 6 or 8 feet behind the front of that airplane. I figure at that distance and at that speed, if I use the front of that airplane as my aiming point, I'm going to get some rounds into the fuselage, maybe even into the cockpit. And believe you me, if you can get a couple of 50 caliber slugs bouncing around inside that cockpit with that pilot, you're going to give him something else to think about besides coming back and machine gunning you a second time. I maintained that lead, squeeze your trigger, brrr. I don't think I got off more than about 6 or 8 rounds, but I saw at least 2 of those tracer bullets disappear into the fuselage of that airplane just forward of the cockpit. And when they did, that airplane did an abrupt rolling right turn and was gone from my field of fire. No more aircraft came back to the bomb or strafe our end of the island that morning. I stayed at that gun. I got to fire short bursts at other aircraft as they passed through my limited field of fire on their way to or from other targets. But by now, our own aircraft parked on the ramps and on the apron and an adjacent hangar, Building 6, Hangar 1, all of which were between where I was there in the blister of that PBY airplane parked tail to the front of Building 54 and where the Nevada was headed down there in the area of Hospital Point. Those airplanes and that hangar was beginning to burn so fiercely, putting up the heavy clouds of black smoke that it just obliterated that field of fire. 50 years later, I was listening to a news broadcast from Pearl Harbor. That year they had made a special attempt to locate as many of those Japanese pilots as they could who had participated in that raid, who had survived the war, who were capable, physically able to travel. They had brought them back to Pearl Harbor for that anniversary. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think they let them go on the Arizona on the 7th because there was too many survivors there. But they took them on the Arizona early on the morning of the 8th. Anyway, they were interviewing them, and they asked this one pilot, what part did you play in that raid? Now listen carefully to this. He said, I was the lead pilot of a group of 9 aircraft. Our assigned targets were the airplanes and the hangars on Ford Island. That's where I was.